Hello everybody, we're back. It was one of those nights, everybody. I think when things go wrong, they really go wrong. So I was mid-corner and we had a massive power cut. So everything went black. But we're back. So hopefully you're rejoining us and are able to get back into the stream. It's great to see you again for the second time this evening. Hopefully the power stays on this time when we get to actually finish off driving these cars. So let's see what we can do. We're back into a race room as well, so I'll try and get myself loaded back on track. Anyway, take two. Oh dear. I'm pretty sure RaceRoom servers is trying to take out the rest of North Wales power grid. Right, let's jump into the game again and try again. Okay. All right. So here we are again. Let's let's see if we can get back on board with this again. So yeah, if you've joined in again, thank you for sticking with us and for coming back on again. Hopefully this time, less dramas. Still got the same grey go button, but hopefully we can load again. As Spinning Genius says, the problem is you'll have to load the car and track again. Yes. Yeah, I am aware. Let's hope it works. Oh dear. Kevin says, did I break the stream? I joined and then you were gone. No, it wasn't you, Kevin. I don't think so, unless you have power surge control. I don't know. But we're back up and running again. Everything seems to be okay. So, yeah. If it goes black again, you know the reason. It'll be power cuts. And then we'll probably call it a night if that's the case. But we are loading back in again. So, winner. Right. So this is the Mclaren 570S GT4, everybody, in case you weren't there for the first part. Except they won't be, because in the chaos of not of starting everything back up again, I didn't start up my SimiCube software, so let's do that first. Reset the center. Right. See if that actually works now. Ah, brilliant. Good times. Right, Kevin Robert. Aha, there you are. Did I miss anything? You missed the fact that I had a power cut. Just to top off all the other dramas we were having with RaceRoom this evening. But we're back. We're back and kicking. So I was just driving the 570S in AMS2 for reference. Aha! Going back to back with some different sims. Okay, so to pick up where we were before we were so rudely interrupted by the darkness, we're here in the 570S at Watkins Glen, and we were discussing the sounds, and the sounds are maybe not quite what you'd expect internally, but I think they do work. We need to turn our traction control down a little bit. There we go. Now, hopefully it's not the corner issue, because we're coming up to the same corner now. So, hold your breath, everybody. Well, I made it through safely. Hopefully you did too. All right. Just have to build up tyre temperature all over again. So you brake about 200 here. So the more I'm driving this car, the more it does actually sound even better, so getting used to the sounds now. Whippy whips back. I can almost count the interior polygons. Yeah, the steering wheel's quite squared off in places. Yeah, so the interior looks quite plain actually, doesn't it, really? Too busy looking at the texturing on the dash there, not paying too much attention to my apex point into turn 1. Yeah, so Kevin's pointing out that the digital reader looks nothing like AMS2 or ACC. Yeah, that'll be the non-real world dashes which Whippy Whip was speaking about earlier on. They don't tend to run real life dashes in most of these cars, which is the shame. The car does feel quite nice to drive, I will admit. Even when you go a little bit too enthusiastically into a corner, you can bring it back in line. Going for the late apex version of that corner there. One of those corners, it's quite tricky to get the right line through there. It's a case of whether you take it in tight and try and keep it neat and tidy in the inside all the way around, or whether you do turn in late and apex later and then get the power down harder, but it's one of those tricky corners, as is that one, I tend to find. The car feels pretty decent underneath. It's got a good feeling of the road and the surface on the road as well, so clipping that curb on the previous corner, it was giving a bit of a hop and a skip over there, and you could feel that through the feedback, which was quite nice. Right, let's try and maximise turn 1 here without cutting too much of the apex curb. Feel the force feedback load up through the high-speed corners. So I believe the gearing in GT4s are very much limited to standard gearing, so you don't get to change any of the ratios, I don't think, so that's why we're only getting up to 6th gear very, very late on the straight. Oops. So Whippy Whip says it's the guy who'd done the dashes left years ago, and no one at RaceRoom knows how to make them. Yeah, it's an interesting reason. They obviously have the code there for these particular dashes, so you'd think they'd be able to unpick it maybe and figure out what's going on. Yeah, so turning in there, so there's a lot of bank corners here at Watkins Glen, so it does tend to hold the car quite nicely through the corner, but sometimes when you turn it in, you do feel the car does have a little bit of a shake of the head as it goes into the corner, so that's quite nice. It's not completely glued to the road. So once once again up through the S's here. We'll finish this lap off and we'll have a watch from the outside as well to see what the car looks like from the exterior cameras. Try and get through the bus stop without having my lap time deleted. I think we may have managed it. No, just lose on the exit there instead. Quite hot on the old track limits around here at Watkins Glen on race route. Now things are warmed up quite nicely. It's feeling quite nice to drive through the corners. You can feel a bit more of the grip that's available. Yeah, so I think as far as the sounds are concerned, the sounds are there. I think it's just a couple of extra little samples which are included, which run over the top of the engine noise, which masks it slightly, but the general sound is there. Handling-wise, yeah, I mean it's quite fun. Obviously, it's mid-engine this car, so it should be quite nicely balanced through the corners, which of course it does feel to be. Front end is maybe not quite as pointy as it could be, but obviously you can probably change some things in the garage to try and improve that. So let's have a look at the car from the outside here. Let's just go back a few laps and have a watch. Yeah, I think externally it does sound right. The 570S is one of those cars. It's quite funny. You see it on a racetrack and think it's tiny. You know, it's such a tiny little car. It's like almost like a Daihatsu Copeland. But you see your 570S on the road, they look really wide and really huge. See it moving around on the road looks quite good, quite natural. That was a little wide. Okay, well, exterior sounds good. Let's have a look in the garage and see what options we have available to us for setups in this car. So obviously brake bias, brake pressure, and fuel, of course, we'd need that. So everything else is pretty much standard apart from no downforce adjustment on the front. Everything else you can adjust with your ride heights, your shocks, your springs, camber, etc. Rear, obviously you now have adjustment on the wing, which you can play around with. Actually got quite a bit of wing on as default there, which could be causing some of the understeer issue that we felt initially. So maybe dropping that down a couple of clicks might help with that. Electronics, of course, traction control options available. Driveline, as predicted, gearing is completely fixed. There's actually 7 gears, so I think you'd probably only ever use 7th if you were on the straight at the Nordschleife, I think, by what we saw there. And then engine braking is the other thing you can adjust on the garage front for the Mclaren. So that's that. Yeah, quite a fun little car. If you like your GT4 cars, it's always nice to have a bit of extra padding in the class of another car to choose from. So that's good. Right. Oh, things are much quicker now. That's looking much better. Right. Let's go and try out the new KTM. We'll start with the GT2 spec car. Which one should we choose here? I'm going to go with orange and blue version, I think. Let's go somewhere suitably Dutch, shall we? Why am I missing it? Ah, that's right, because it should be down here. the one I was looking for. We'll do the... yeah, we'll do the proper Grand Prix rather than the motorcycle one. Oop. Right. Let's see how we get on with this one. Yeah, so Kevin says, as they're only a small team, sort of regarding the dash issue, I have some sympathy, but a shame not to get something that reflects the real car. It is a shame. It is, absolutely. But yeah, you can appreciate there's an awful lot going on for a small team of developers. And again, I'm not one for that kind of thing, so I wouldn't know where to start with regards to creating a dash. But there we go, we're loading in perfectly fine now. Excellent. Right. So this is the interior cockpit of the KTM Crossbow. This is an interesting looking thing. I don't know. Let me worth seeing if I can map left and right here, because it'd be good to have a look around on the inside. Cameras, look left. Use that. And look right, we shall use that. Because this is quite a funky looking cockpit we got here. So we have cameras for mirrors. We don't actually have proper mirrors. So there's a camera on the right hand side there, and there's a camera you can just see on the left hand side there. You wouldn't see it because it'd be underneath my camera. So we have little camera screens available there. We have quite a prominent roll cage right in front of us there. Obviously the cockpit of the car is quite spacious and wide because you got a lot of glass there, so it's get a reasonable view, but some of it is blocked off by that enormous steel tubing. Steering wheel looks like an interesting creation. It's kind of Formula-ish really. It's not really a wheel as such. It's cut off on the top with a integrated dash on there, which is different. So there must be some element of creating specific dashes for cars, just not all of them. Right, let's fire it up. Remember, this is a 5-cylinder. Okay, there's that 5-cylinder noise we know. Right, let's take it out on track. That sounds good. Although, there's a loop there. Let's just get onto the straight here and I'll show you. So listen for the loop in the sounds. Ready? Around, what rev is that? So I think it's around 5,500 revs. Not always there, but there is an obvious loop going on there where you can kind of hear it jumping between sound samples, so that's a shame. Oh, it is a reused one, is it, Whippy? Okay. Ooh. That is so weird. Oh, that's really that's quite a shame. I'm hoping that's not the same with the GTX one, but it sounds all digitized. It's not a smooth revving sound. It kind of completely puts you off as you go up through the rev range, and it's usually actually just as you're trying to pull out of a corner as well. It's the same kind of. Yeah, very odd. Okay, well let's look beyond the sounds, because let's try and figure out the driving side of things. Well, that, I must say, that is very unusual. It's not often that we have issues like that with sounds in RaceRoom, because they've always been, up until this particular one, very, very good and nicely put together. But this one, obviously I can't tell from experience, I haven't driven one of these things in real life, but I'm pretty sure there wouldn't be a change of sound like that midway through the rev range. Very odd. Okay, well, what about the driving then? Oops. What about my driving? Okay. So Whippy Whip says, a lot of RaceRoom's more recent cars sound average at best when compared to the old content. Must be a different sound. I'm trying to think back to the previous pack, which was the Mazda and the Crosleys and the Praga. Yeah, I mean, there are some really nice sounds on RaceRoom. Obviously, we've done a video on them in the past with some of the best sounds in RaceRoom, but yeah, so far this is not sounding the same kind of quality, as you say. Jasado, welcome along, good to see you. It says, I can't race. That update destroyed my RaceRoom. Oh no. In terms of it not loading, or is there more sinister issues going on? Because we were having problems getting into the server initially, which has now sorted itself out. Okay, let's try and get a handle on this thing, because it was a bit of a weird feeling when it let go then. So the GT2 cars as a category are kind of geared towards being loads and loads of power, but not quite the same levels of cornering ability grip that you get with GT3 cars. So I was just being extra careful there, because I had a suspicion I was going in too deep to that corner and having the same issues we had before, but I kept it on the track. Yeah, so they're not meant to be really, really capable around corners in comparison to GT3 cars, but they should still be able to handle a corner with relative ease, which it is. It's getting through the chicane there quite nicely. It's probably just me going in too hot into that one particular right-hander which caused the rear to come round, but we'll keep pushing and see what we can find. So again, this is a mid-engined car. It should be all about balance in the middle of the corner. Yeah, so the Mazda was decent, wasn't it, Whippy? Yeah, and the old content is on another level. Yeah, I think specifically the DTM Mustang is one of my all-time favourites. Oh, that's a curb. So Gisado says it sends you back to the main menu. Yeah, so we were having that problem initially this evening where it wasn't loading into the actual circuit itself and then just booting us back to the menu. We were having that problem, but it has now resolved itself. Obviously, as you can see, we're on track, but might be worth a restart just to make sure it's not improved for you, because it had actually just improved considerably in the recent load-in of this particular session, so hopefully it should be working. And yeah, and Kevin was having problems and he's now able to get in as well, so I think it's sorting itself out. Too hot. Welcome, Samuel. So I thought I'd missed the stream. Well, you could have been forgiven for thinking you missed the stream, because part 1 ended with a rather black screen. and a rather dark house as the power got cut off on my end, so we're back up for part 2. Welcome along, good to have you with us, and thanks to those who've rejoined to follow along with the action this evening. That curb's still there, Phil. Hasn't moved since last time around. Oops. So struggling a little bit with the KTM at the moment. I mean, it feels alright to drive. I think it's just different. It's also the sounds which are distracting a little bit, I think. It's a shame because this car in real life does sound amazing with the 5-cylinder engine, of course. It's an Audi engine in this thing. You know what Audi 5-cylinders are like. Well, we're getting there. We're starting to get more in tune with the car as well. A little bit of trail braking just to help with rotation into these corners, especially these ones which seem to go on forever. Oh, you're having power problems as well, are you, Kevin? Over in Ottawa. Ice storm, wow. Yeah, I've been following along. There's been a lot of severe weather over in the States. I've been watching along with a YouTuber online covering the massive tornado outbreak we had the other day, and yeah, crazy weather happening, so keep yourself safe, Kevin. Don't get caught out in the ice. Hey Racer J, it says glad you're back, fingers crossed no more issues. Yeah, other than my driving, obviously. But yeah, power cuts, good fun, aren't they? Right when you need them to, usually. So we've got a bit of dirt on the tyres now, so that the grip has disappeared. Which is good, you've got to be aware of that. If you do go off track, you can't just go full on into the next corner like you would expect to do normally and get away with it, because he'll just throw you off like that. Okay, well, let's have a watch from outside. Let's see if that sound loop is there from the outside here. Let's just go back here. We'll go on the TV cam to start off with, and then we'll try it from the chase cam and see if the chase cam has the same kind of looping issues that we had inside. I mean, it's a really cool looking car. I do love the look of this thing. From the outside, it's good. Maybe quiet, but yeah, I mean, you can't tell there's any sound issues from there. Let's have a listen from the chase cam. Yeah, so again, there's no obvious sound loops from the external camera. Again, it is quite quiet. It's not as raucous of a 5-cylinder as, for example, a Volvo S40 touring car, or even the original Quattros of the Audi 90s, for example. But you can definitely tell it's there. Now we just need them to sort out that looping on the interior sounds and it would be okay. I'd get used to driving it more if I was not put off by the noises it was making. But yeah, it is a really nice looking car. I completely agree with all you guys saying that about the car. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's been very much purpose made for this kind of situation here, really, because you obviously got Audi R8s and 911s, which are, you know, sports cars in their own right, really, but this one's been very much made with aerodynamics in mind for this kind of purpose of racing. So yeah, very, very cool car. Right, well, let's go try the GTX version of it. On my one, which is parked on the side of the road. There we go. That's the GT2 variant. Now, the GTX one, as I said earlier on, is a bit more of an unleashed version of the car. So we'll have to see what the speed difference is on that. So here it is. This is the GTX category. So let's pick a livery to go with here. Here the writer engineering one. We'll do it at Assen as well. And compare it back to back with the GT2 variant. Simon says, did you try the Mazda DPi yet, or isn't that part of this update? It is part of the update. We haven't tried it yet. That is next. That's next on the list. So stay tuned. We'll be doing some of that shortly. Yeah, that's going to be fun. But yeah, you guys saying it does look great. I think probably the rear is, yeah, as you say, Kevin, it's probably one of my favorite angles of it as well. It's really quite aggressive from the rear. I mean, even the front's pretty aggressive with those lights, but yeah, the rear looks really cool. All right, GTX version then. Obviously, no major changes inside. Pretty much exactly the same car. Just have more power available to us. So let's see if that's noticeable. Okay. Hang on. Aha! It seems to be an issue with the GT2 variant. Because this one revs cleanly all the way through the rev band. You notice that? That's more like it. Now I can get behind this version. I know it's something ridiculous, isn't it? A sound looping like that shouldn't really put you off too much, but when it's that obvious, it's quite tricky to not hear it every single time you hear it. Whereas this one, you just get the beautiful sounds of a 5-cylinder engine, and you know it's all okay, and you can just focus on pushing on and trying to drive as fast as possible. Yeah, that's much nicer. That was a very, very poor corner, that one, but it's okay, we're still learning the car. Alright, so Simon says, that was my favourite car in IMSA when it was still competing. A good looking car, yes. Before LMDH took over with its different regulations. The Mazda was very, very cool looking car. This one actually feels nicer to drive as well. I know that's pretty weird considering they're pretty much the same car with a little bit of power difference, but it just seems to have a bit more cornering ability to it. Right, let's see if we can turn TC down a little bit. I think it was interfering slightly then. The second part there is not quite flat out. That's too far out. Too quickly there. Okay, so this is much nicer. So it's kind of hard to explain. I think I'm going to have to turn my force feedback up slightly because it's quite light, but the overall driving dynamic of the GTX version is just a little bit more enjoyable, I think, actually. So it's obviously in default settings, there's no changes to the setup that we've done, which obviously you can do in real life, but, well, not in real life, but in the game. So just driving on default, it does feel a lot more responsive, and its turn-in and overall driving dynamics, it feels a little bit more alive on the road. So that's good. Missed the apex by a long way, but little lift, hard on the power, keep it in bounds. So there we go. It's a better line through there eventually. So Racer J said, I'm debating whether to buy all the content, but there's so many new sims on the horizon. Any advice? Sorry, I was reading that rather than watching where I was going. Yeah. So I think really it boils down to what kind of content you enjoy the most. So if you're a fan of modern stuff or historic stuff, or if you like single-seaters, GTs, touring cars, whatever it may be, yeah, that's the big problem for sim racers. Us sim racers are very spoiled at the moment with availability of various things to enjoy. I mean, personally, I do like the content here in RaceRoom. I think it's, on the whole, is very, very good and fun to drive. So if you did go in and get the content for RaceRoom, you probably wouldn't be too disappointed with what you get, I would say. But the good thing about RaceRoom, of course, is you can test all the cars out for yourself in the store. So if you wanted to absolutely make sure that you were making the right decision, you could give them all a test and see what you think, and if you like them, or if there's certain you don't like, you can just get the ones that you do like. So that's a really good feature of RaceRoom, which helps with the overall decision. Okay, I'm going to just turn up my force feedback slightly because I want to feel a bit more here. So normally I had it around 60, but I was testing out the Celine for the screenshot yesterday, and it was really heavy, and it was like, it's unusual. So there we go, turned up a little bit. Yeah, it's a bit better. So Samuel says it's free to play with some cars, maybe give it a try that. Yeah, so they have some content available which you can just drive anyway because it's included. But as mentioned, yeah, you can test drive them and figure out which ones you like best. Kevin says, I bought it all, don't regret it, but I've not used it nearly as much as I would like to have. Yeah, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's time constraints. This is nice. This is actually a really nice car to drive. I'm enjoying this the more and more I turn some laps in it. Even though I am still running off-tracking on occasion, but it's a really enjoyable car. Yes, you can map buttons for force feedback up and down. I just haven't. It's awesome. Love it. So Samuel says, me personally use AC and AMS2 for offline fun and iRacing for multiplayer fun. Yep. So the competition side of things, iRacing is obviously very, very strong with its official races and all the categories and all that kind of stuff, which is ticking a lot of boxes for a lot of people. Yeah, as you say, there are other things for offline fun, such as AMS2 and Assetto Corsa, all that kind of stuff, which of course you can do online as well. But yeah, there's just so many different ones to drive and enjoy, and so little time to do so. Yeah, now this is quite a highlight of the pack so far, I will say. And I'm glad that the sound is working for this one, because it does really make a big difference. I know I've spoken about that quite a lot, but having the sound right really makes a huge difference, not only to emotion, but to drive as well. So as sim racers, we have very limited resources at our disposal to actually drive quickly. So whereas in a real car, what I'm sat in now would be a big part of what I would feel in terms of driving, and you'd rely on that for a lot of the information coming through to you. Whereas for us as sim racers, we have what comes through our hands on the steering wheel and what comes through our ears in terms of the sound. So if one of those is off, you've lost half of your inputs basically in terms of trying to gauge where you are with things. So even though it was just a very small little loop transition which was causing some anomaly there, it still kind of garbles your brain a little bit, because you're trying to listen for a regular rev sound, an engine sound, and it's just not quite there, so it kind of throws you off a little bit. So it's important to have the sound right, and this one does, so that is good. So just a quick view of the car on track, just to make sure it sounds okay from the outside and they haven't reversed it and have poor external sounds and good internal sounds. Yep, all sounds smooth enough there. It's quite cool that the downshift sounds there, is nice hearty pop and bang from the exhaust. Yep. No, that's good. I like that a lot. Right. Back to the main menu we go, because we're going to test out the final car of this particular pack to see what that's like to drive. And it's going to be a bit of a step up from where we have been with GT4, GT2, and obviously GTX car here. But now we move on to the Mazda DPi, and as we showed in part 1, we have a nice array of different liveries to choose from, as well as obviously the official team liveries from the IMSA series. So what should we go with? Let's choose a nice looking livery here. I'm actually going to partial to this red and yellow one here. This one looks quite nice. So let's try and find a suitable IMSA track to take this to. I think perhaps we should do Daytona Road and give it a rip around there. Let's see how this goes. All right. What are you guys saying here? So Simon says, in iRacing you have the tyre script sound so you can hear how close you are to the limit or on it, which is nice. Yeah, so the tyre script sound does help. And you do get a little bit with RaceRoom as well, maybe not quite to the same extent, but you can still tell a little bit of what's going on. Racer J says this stream is helping the decision. That's good. Well, obviously you got to try it out for yourself, but personally I enjoy the RaceRoom content. I don't think you'll be disappointed with it. Whippy says, I'm amazed that car exteriors and track look great, but the interiors look rubbish. Yeah, it's different, isn't it? It's difficult. I don't know why there's a difference in it, but yeah, the exteriors of the cars definitely look the part, don't they? Right, speaking of interiors, this is the Mazda DPi, so not too much to see here really. So you've got, again, a RaceRoom dash on the steering wheel there, and a repeat of it on the big dash on the right side. So it's a Bosch DDU9, but it doesn't have a Bosch DDU9 screen on it. So yeah, not an awful lot to see on the inside. You've got the driver protection on the right hand side there, so you can't really see much. There's a mirror there, but you can see half of the mirror, which is very small in the first place, so next to useless. We have got a TV camera in the middle at the top there, which is handy. Can make use of that left-hand mirror if you had a triple monitor setup. And then obviously we've got the dials on the dash and the brake bias, etc. Right. Steering wheel's quite a busy looking thing, lots of dials and knobs and thumb twisters and all sorts of stuff going on there, so lots to be messing around with. Right. Let's fire it up. Quick sound check. Okay. Sounds good so far. Let's take it on track. Oops. Let's put the speed limiter on. Don't want to get in trouble with race director. Ooh. I do like the rumble on the limiter. Let's get up to that again. Oh, that sounds good. Right. It's nice and easy out of the tight pit lane exit there. Daytona. That, everybody, is a lesson in don't go too quickly out of the pits before you can actually go that quickly. Don't run before you can walk, essentially. Right. Let's try again. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Ooh, we've got some transmission flutter going on here as well. It's here on the downshifts more often. So listen to this. You got that little kind of noise as you go down the gears, as the transmission just desperately tries to engage, and the engine braking kicks in as well. This thing revs, doesn't it? What's the RPM? I can't quite see because my steering wheel's in the way. Up to 8,000. Too busy looking at the rev counter. There was no way of making it through the bus stop. Exploratory first lap, this one in the Mazda. So we have obviously shift lights on the steering wheel. There's a Motec shift stack on the dash there, and I'm not sure if that's specifically for lockups or traction, perhaps. I'll have to keep an eye on that, see if it actually lights up. It does lock up, there you go, so it's a lockup indicator, so you saw it go purple on the left hand side there, showing you that you're locking a left hand tyre. So good to keep an eye out. Okay, now this has a bit more of the sound that we're kind of used to with RaceRoom, so it's got depth to it, so listen to it when I come completely off the throttle. it's not just a case of straight down. It has some little fluctuations and little wobbles in there as well, so it keeps it interesting, which is good. I do love that noise when it's on the overrun. So, a modern prototype in RaceRoom. We have a selection of prototype cars already in there, but they are a little bit more on the older side of things. So, this is the most recent prototype car available. Hello, bus stop wall. Ooh, that was an interesting collision. Let's just go back to the garage a second. This one's proving to be a little bit more tricky. So used to the slower cars, it's kind of throwing me off and I'm into a false sense of security. So Samuel says the speed difference in previous cars is insane. Yeah, it is. It's a lot quicker, this thing. Racing J, iRacing. Oof, Samuel, too rich for me. Oops, thought I engaged that. Let's try again. Yeah, so Samuel, you're right, yeah, exactly what we were saying. There's a lot of detail in the sound for this one. Remember, cold tyres coming out of the pit lane, Phil. Don't go too deep into the international horseshoe. Almost followed my own tyre tracks there, but we didn't. It is quite the rocket ship when you put your foot down on this thing. Okay, so there's different stages to that lock-up indicator. I saw there we had one light on, then all the lights on because I was seriously locked up. So it gives you an indication if you're on the absolute threshold of locking that wheel. It'll let you know, and then when you've gone past that, it'll definitely let you know. Yeah, so again, force feedback on this one. It's nice and strong, nice and tight around the centre. The Daytona road course is actually quite bumpy in places, and you really felt a lot of it through the bus stop there. It was kind of bouncing around quite a lot. So you have to hold on to it through the bus stop, as you kind of do in most sims as well. There we go. 6th gear, flat out. That's the finish line. Let's get it stopped a little bit earlier this time, give ourselves half a chance. Better. Just being a bit gentle with my right foot. I'm not quite sure how quickly I can apply the throttle just yet. Easily flat through the kink. Okay, so it seems to not like going down the gears too quickly. Maybe I'm going into second gear too early on in the braking phase and it's not liking it. I'm kind of used to it with prototype cars. You really do just smash the brakes and just go down through the gears as quickly as possible, but I need a bit more finesse. Dirty tyres as well, of course, I'm going over the grass there. Really feeling it load up through the banking there. Right, thread the needle through the bus stop. A bit of a tyre squeal noise through there. You can see it chirping away over the surface of the tarmac. So there is downshift protection on the car as well, so you can't go through the gears on the downward shifts too quickly, but even without that. Okay, second gear though, it just has a little bit of a snap as you're turning in at the same time. Okay, let's try into this next hairpin and see if it's any better with a slower downshift. I just feel like I'm just going in there too slow now, that's the problem. Okay, things are picking up a little bit more now, so let's see how we get on. So Samuel says, might have to install RaceRoom and get this pack for this car. Well, you don't necessarily have to get the whole pack. I think you can probably just get the car by itself. So if you didn't fancy the GT4 and the KTM, you could just get the Mazda, I think. Still going too quick into that. To think more about the exit than the entry into the bus stop. Important to carry speed all the way through the banking into the fast section of the circuit, so going in too hot means you can't get on the power early enough and then you end up with all sorts of problems. Hey Marty, welcome along. Yeah, it's definitely very sensitive on the downshifts. Diagnose what I'm doing wrong there, because I think it's either me going into the corners too quickly, or it's something to do with my brake application in terms of trail braking into the corner. Oh, okay, yeah, so in that case it makes sense for you to go for the whole pack then, Samuel. Yeah, that would make more sense that way. And the KTMs are good. I'm sure they'll fix that sound loop at some point. I don't think they'll leave it like that. And the McLaren's quite nice as well. So that's the better line to that, but obviously a bit too keen on the curb cutting there. Alright, traction control was on 1, so let's turn that down to our usual 3 setting, and see if we don't loop this around. Still kicking in there on the exit as well. Let's turn down to 4. So it seems to be better on the downshift. Maybe I just need to brake more in a straight line. Get all the downshifting done as straight as possible before you get into the corner. Of course means you've got to brake early enough to be able to do so. Not like that previous corner where we ran on too much. Right, this time through the bus stop, no cut track warnings. Much better. It's more like it. It is a sensitive beast, it is, it's very sensitive. I'll treat it nicely. again, let's try and get through turn 1 safely here. Yeah, so I think definitely downshifting in a straight line is the key. Moving around a little bit on the exit there. Also, shout out to the RaceRoom guys for doing the planes here at Daytona, making them move at a realistic speed, because when you see a plane come into land or take off from Daytona in iRacing, it takes off at like ridiculous speed. It's just, just disappears. Whereas that one, at least you can kind of tell it's moving, but it's not it's not fighter jet speeds. Oh, okay. Now we're getting there. That's good through there. So yeah, so back to basics when as always when it doesn't work for you. Exactly, yeah. So if you're struggling with something, just build yourself up slowly, figure things out, go back to the basics, do it nice and basically. So straighten the brake lines. I was only down to third there, that was my own problem. But yeah, it's always good sometimes just to have a bit of a regroup and just figure out where you're up to with things and build up again. Just need to be a bit more careful with the throttle out of the slow corners. Yeah, this is feeling pretty good now. We'll go for one more blast through the bus stop. We'll watch the car from the outside, and then we'll put all the cars together on track and see what they're like in terms of speed differences and things. So here we go. Nice purple sector there as well. Proof that things are starting to click. So line we go for another session's best. Yeah, so it's that final downshift with some steering lock on, which sealed the fate of that particular spin. Right, let's have a look at it from the outside and have a listen. Didn't think we're getting the brakes that hot, but obviously they're glowing pretty hot there. It's got an interesting overrun sound on the outside, isn't it? It's almost like that blown diffuser type noise that you used to get in Formula 1. Let's have a listen from the chase cam here and just see what that sounds like. Yeah, there it is. That's that sound. Sound good though. You actually got an exhaust on one side of the car there, so you got the metal plate to stop it from burning the carbon fibre. You don't have it on the other side. Very twitchy through that. So Kevin says, off topic, I watched the 1987 Skip Barber training video on YouTube today. Legendary. That's cool, I'll have to go check that out. The old Skippies. Great cars. Son was like, oh, I missed this car in real life, such a cool car. Yeah, let's listen to the overrun. That's really interesting, isn't it? It's really raspy kind of noise. That sounds pretty neat, actually. Back to TV camera. It's a nice looking car though. It is really good. It drives well as well. It's got good feedback to the wheel. It's, as we said when we were driving it, it is very twitchy. So you got to be on your game driving this thing around and keeping it in check, especially if you turn the traction control down a little bit to stop it from kicking in when you're coming out of corners, unless of course you wanted to. But yeah, so you do have to be a little bit careful with your inputs and things, but it is a fun car to drive. I mean, through the bus stop, you really do hang on, but it does take the corners quite happily as well. All those dive planes on the front, and it's got a aggressive aero package on it. Right, let's add some let's add some other cars to the mix here, shall we? Let's go back to the menu and we'll add in some extra cars here. So let's load up 20 cars on here. We'll add a mixed grid here of various cars. So we'll add that. We'll add the KTM, and we'll go into G4, and we'll add the Mclaren, and of course we'll drop that down. There we go. Auto fit those. We have a selection of them available. So we'll see what the speed differentials like between them. So we'll go to a different circuit here. Let's try something like Road America, shall we? Let's do that. 20 cars. Yeah. Let's do it. We'll stick with the DPi for this one and just see what we can do rounding up with the other cars. Like Karen says, I might have to find time to try this one. Yeah, I think so. And Kev Barber says, worth trying the DPi and AMS2 straight after this for a comparison. Won't say anything. Okay. Yep. I will do that as well. Maybe off stream, I will do that just to see what they're like. It's interesting. Yeah, so Samuel, definitely going to try this car and others in the pack. Yep. Definitely worth a go. Right, here we go then. So we have other cars on track. This isn't a race, this is just practice, of course, but we'll have other cars to choose from now. Worth noting, we have medium tyres on for our DPi and then hard tyres for everything else. Can we change the compound? We can. Either medium or hard. We're on the medium tyres, so we should have more grip. We actually didn't take a look at the setup options here, so to see if there's anything else that sticks out here. So yeah, third spring, which is a big jump from everything else. So you have your regular springs, your regular shocks, and you also have a third spring as well, which I think is mounted inboard, I believe. Obviously you've got downforce options on the front with all those dive planes and heaps of adjustment on the wing angle on the rear. Third spring adjustment again for the rear of the car as well. TC drive line, what have we got here? So obviously you can change the gear ratios, final drive, oops, and also the differential options there as well. So we've got map options, so increasing something increases power output at the expense of fuel economy. So we're on map 3 here, so we can go up to map 5. I think we might have to do that. It's that kind of a qualifying map. Let's see what that's like. Okay. Let's let some other cars go here and go catch up with them. The GT4s disappear. See how long it takes us to catch up with them on the track. On the KTMs. Okay, Road America. Fun circuit as well. So we're on the highest mapping here as well for the engine. Big challenge is keeping it on the track. Here we go. Already coming up to the back of one of the McLarens. That's one rounded up. We had our traction control back down to our level 1. Just about enough room there. Bit of a dive bomb, but we're through. This is where the big difference will be through the carousel. Around the outside, no problem. He's braking for a kink. Okay. No. It's fine. Just getting them to repass me so I could go back past them again. That's all that plan was about. You believe that? Right, here we go. Let's try and keep it on the island, shall we? The RaceRoom version of Road Atlanta is very different to the iRacing version and the AMS2 version as well, to be fair. The elevation changes are a bit odd. But it's okay, we'll drive through it. Well, the AI have good brakes. Alright. Be aware that... Hello. There are some things to be aware of going into turn 1 if you're following another car. Ah, goodness. Like it's standing still, like Red Bull versus Mercedes. So I've got to remember everything I learned from Daytona, where you have to downshift in a straight line. Obviously there's a big difference in performance on braking between this and the GT4. I'm making a real hash of this, aren't I, really? Let's turn TC down to 3 again. You just go 3 wide around the carousel. Yeah, why not? Right. So Samuel says the final sector is quick and fun. I also get that corner wrong. Oh, the last one, is it? Yeah. Oh, this one here, Canada corner. Yeah. It is a difficult one to get right. Especially if you're not braking very well. My goodness. I've got to slow that down much quicker. Come on, Phil, it's not that difficult. Must be qualifying mode that's putting me off. All this extra pace that we have available. Oh, tyres feel very, very dirty now. Right, so Turjo says, so what's the best car you've tested today? That is a good question, Turjo. So, as much as this is giving me a real problem right now, I think the gem in this particular pack is this Mazda DPi. But I also really love the KTM GTX. I think that's quite fun as well. The McLaren's nice. GT4 is GT4 really. It's better to race than it is to drive on its own around the track. But the McLaren's, yeah, it's nice to drive, and sounds are a little bit... Yeah, they're okay. They're not amazing, but they're... You know, you know what it is. You can tell what it is. There's just a couple of little samples in there which kind of muffle things out a little bit, but overall it's nice, and the car drives well. So that's not flat. Oh yeah. I haven't had a clean lap here at all. We've had traffic as well, but also my driving's not been helping. Let's try to get used to the RaceRoom version of Road America. Where are you going, KTM? Yay, we made it through that corner. I was careful on the throttle just to make sure we could actually say that, but... Okay. Just relax. We've got it. Oh, you got the name of the skip barber on there. Cool, we'll check that out. So being a downforce car, a high downforce car, you really can lean on the brakes when you're coming from a high speed into a heavy braking zone. You have to bleed off the brakes quite quickly as well, otherwise you will start locking up. But when you're at the higher speed, you can really mash that brake pedal down. Okay, it's gelling a little bit more now. Definitely gelling more now. Oh, not the best time to catch up with a slower car. Yeah, so basically I think the problem was I was being too gentle on the brakes. And because of that I'm now turning in too early. So yeah, this version, no, it's not laser scan, this one, I don't think. But yeah, but it is indeed a fun one, definitely. Red America's a good circuit. Never really a massive fan of it, but I've grown to like it. It's just the wheel weight just increases as we went around there even further. It's pretty heavy through there as well. That's too late on the brakes, even with leaning on them a little bit more. So braking just before it straightens up on the entrance to that one. So it's kind of fun when you add some other cars on track, and obviously you would have a selection of other slower cars on track when these cars are racing in real life as well. Obviously they had GT3s, and I'm not sure if they had GT4s at the same time. I don't think they did. I think it was just GTEs and GT3s. So you would have to negotiate some relative slower cars. These ones are just one step slower than they would have had to deal with in real life. I honestly didn't think we were going to get that stop then. But we did, somehow. That's oh so close to being flat through there now. No! So there we go, I was too late on the brakes and downshifting into the corner, and it just did not want to comply with that. Yeah, so this thing is fun. I certainly approve of this particular car. It's not the easiest of things to drive, as you might be able to tell, but it is quite rewarding when you get it right. It's a good fun challenge to have as well. Just trying to maximise that corner speed through there, but just completely missed the apex altogether. Right, we'll do one more flying lap here. Hopefully we can round up this Mclaren on the straight, but might be just in the braking zone. Maybe. He was in the middle of the road. Didn't want to go to the right because I thought he was going to assume his usual racing line into the turn 3 left-hander there. But he ended up sitting in the middle of the road, and I wasn't sure whether I could go down the inside or not, but just about managed to. All locked up. Out of road. Yeah, I mean obviously direction change with this thing is as you'd expect. You can just flick left or right as you want to at speed. Scrappy but flat. Even more scrappy and less flat. Right, well that's good. Actually, no. Before we do that, let's have a replay of that going into turn 3 there, because I want to see what on earth was going on. Right, where were we? Well then. Here it is. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, admittedly we're a long way back here. What's he doing turning in there? Okay, let's watch that on board. Actually, no, we'll go from... Let's actually select the Mclaren and we'll find a suitable rear-facing camera. It's going to have to be this one. Okay, here we go. Oh dear, too close for comfort, that one. But again, we managed to get it stopped just about. There was definite block going on there into there. Yeah, the McLaren looks nice from the outside. Yeah. It's a bit of a nauseating view. Oh, look at the sparks off the curb there. That was cool. I was just testing out the nimbleness of the steering. See if any more sparks appearing from here. That was us just spinning away. Awesome. Right. Okay. Just another replay of my spin. Thanks for that. Okay. Let's jump back in the McLaren. It was the first thing we drove, but we're going to jump back in that with other cars on track as well, and just see how scary it is from the other perspective of things. So we're going to find the McLaren here. Here we go. Let's run with the Optimum Motorsport livery on this one. We'll change this one up to, where should we go? Let's go Darlington Park. Why not? Let's do Darlington GP. We've got the right settings on for opponents. Cool. Load in. Load in and dodge some very fast cars in our mirror. Is it adaptive AI? I don't think I have it set to adaptive actually. I think it's just set to a regular pace, I think. Should have it on adaptive really. This is why we don't have prototypes and GT4s racing together. Yes, that is a very valid argument towards not doing that. Yeah, which makes sense as to why that doesn't happen in real life. So, this is sim racing, we can do what we like. Okay, here we go. Back in the Macca. Media guy's not taking a picture of us, he's always taking a picture of the more interesting cars down the grid, such as that. Right. Darlington Park. With the McLaren, let's see what this is like. It feels so much lighter now compared to the Mazda. So of course now this is the first time driving this since we turned the force feedback up. There goes the DPi. So it'll be interesting to see what this now feels like. Turn that TC down. So the GP circuit here at Darlington, so we're going to be going left at the end of the straight. Into the Melbourne Loop. This feels so tame in comparison to that Mazda. But again, it does feel nice to drive though, this thing. It does move around a little bit. Oops. Just cut a Mazda off then. Sorry. But I was taking my regular racing line, so he couldn't complain at me for blocking like that previous Mclaren did to us. Yeah, I mean those DPIs are just up and gone. Oop! Speaking of which... much more user-friendly, the GT4 cars. That's why you don't throw gentleman drivers straight into a DPi prototype and expect them to be able to survive an endurance race without any kind of incident. Whereas with this, at least you have a good chance of keeping them happily coexisting on the same tarmac. Nice. It's kind of got a little bit of a slide into Redgate there with the entry. Not out of control sliding, but kind of a four-wheel drift type slide. A KTM on the outside. Going around the outside of the old hairpin. Brave. That was just a bit of too much abruptness on the old turn in there with the wheel, so we're getting bombarded. Surprised that we had such closing speed in the middle of the corner then. I must have gone in too hot, but somehow got away with that. Else trying to get past me. There's another KTM coming up in my mirror I can just see. There we are. Yeah, flash all you like. You're quicker, you gotta find a safe way past. Or just through my door. He was under pressure from a DPi as well. He's off on the grass. Now he's off further into the gravel. Keep it together. I'm just trying to avoid you here. Oh dear. See? Even the AI make mistakes. Oh, thanks, Racer J. I can drive on occasion. Just not all the time. It's good fun though. Ooh. There he goes. That's not him, but he's coming back for more. Let's keep out of his way. Just into the back of the other KTM. Much quicker through there than they are. Either brave or stupid. Leaning on me again. Right, go over here an accident again. We'll see you at the next corner. Yeah, so a circuit which has a bit more corners to it, in fact. I mean, Watkins Glen has a decent amount of corners, but they are very similar. The McLaren is a little different to drive around Darrington Park here. But it is good fun to wrestle through the Craner curves, especially. Just move around quite a bit underneath, and you can really feel that as well, which is nice. There's another angry KTM driver. There you go, just go up the inside of Coppice. Out the way. There you go. Now just don't sit on the apex and the chicane. Just go clear off. It's quite impressive actually, the speed difference between the GT4s and those KTMs. They really do have a lot more pace in a straight line. Which is quite incredible really, because obviously this thing's got a V8 in it. Obviously not the most highly powered V8 out there, but nevertheless it's still got a V8 engine with a sizable amount of brake horsepower, but that 5-cylinder turbo in the KTM is obviously very powerful as well. And throw in the weight, or lack of, you get quite a very quick car. Yeah, glad we revisit the 570S, because it is actually a nice car. I mean, the sounds are unusual, but not so unusual that it distracts you too much from the driving. So you can still get away with little mishaps like that. But yeah, the actual driving side of things, the way the car moves around is very enjoyable. Finish this lap off, and then we'll wrap up with our thoughts of these particular cars for the evening. Yeah, through the chicane there, it's really nice. You can just, because that first part of the chicane, the cars do tend to lift a wheel on the inside, and you can kind of feel it doing the same thing, so it'd be interesting to watch the replays to see how it behaves through there. So it definitely feels like I would expect it to going through there. That was when you turn traction control all the way off. Let's see. Okay. I know I said that was the last lap, but we'll check the traction control at the bottom of the hill here, because I'm curious. See what difference it makes. Keep that KTM behind. Yeah, so you can definitely kick the back end out if you are so inclined with TC off, and have some fun with it as well. Right, let's go back and have a look at this car from the outside. There it is, fully sideways. Come on, give me my controls, please. Thank you. Right, we'll look at through the chicane here. Right, it's going to do this. I'm going to free flight here. Let's move this back over here. I want to see the car through the section here, so I'm going to pause that there. Let's just rewind. And then we're going to actually just zoom in a little bit, because I want to see how it behaves over there. So Okay, so it's not lifting off as much as I was expecting it to. Pounced over the curb on the exit there. And again. Actually, let's do it at full speed this time. Okay, so there's that little drop off on the entrance into the chicane there. That's probably what I was feeling, rather than the actual bounce on the curb itself. Hard to tell exactly where that is, but yeah. Either way, it's fun. Let's watch the KTM just comes to a stop through there. That's why we're running into the back of everybody. Yeah, so the little Mclaren, definitely worth a revisit. That was a good fun to drive around there. Right. Let's go back to the menu here and we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining Racer J. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We got there in the end after our initial issues with getting the thing up and running and then the power cut in the middle of it. But glad we were able to actually get on track and drive these cars for you guys, and so you can see what it's like on track and hear my reactions to them. So yeah, okay, let's go through them then. So the McLaren is yeah, it's a fun little car to drive. Obviously GT4 spec, it'll race nicely with the other cars in there, the Audi, the BM, the older KTM, the Lotus, the Mercedes, which is the most recent addition to the GT4 category, and then the two Caymans in there as well. Yeah, so the McLaren also did very nicely in that little group of cars there, and has yet more variety. I mean, you've got a mixture of mid and front engine cars in there. So yeah, should be a good addition to that category and bolsters it out quite nicely. Driving wise, yeah, it feels nice. Good force feedback. Sounds are they're okay. They're not set the world alight sounds, but they pass and they do the job, and they are, you know, reasonable. But yeah, it's a fun car to drive for sure. GT2 cars, the GT2 Crossbow, there's something needs doing on this one because, as I mentioned, the sound is there's something wrong with it. There's a little loop which is just not transitioning properly or something, but it's just right in the middle of the road range, which makes it sound really weird. If it wasn't for that, the car itself would probably be quite fun to drive. It's a bit different to the GTX version, but the GT2 version would still be a fun car to drive, and it looks amazing. And the outside sounds, the exterior sounds for the car were fine. They were spot on, and we have that nice 5-cylinder noise that you would associate with that particular engine. So yeah, that one's okay, but might need a little bit of extra work going on it. The GTX version, no such issues. So good sounds on this one. Everything was absolutely fine. Good fun to drive. Good on track as well. Quite quick of a car as well. So it actually does get around the lap pretty quickly. So good mixture of pace and not so much grip that it's glued to the ground. You still have to kind of dance it through the corners, but it's a good car to kind of balance those two. So that's a really nice one, worth trying. And then yeah, the DPi, which we drove towards the end of that, was pretty tricky. I will be honest, it's pretty tricky to get the most out of that car. However, it's a very rewarding car to get the most out of when you can, because it demands quite a lot of input from the driver. So it's a really fun car. Sounds good, force feedback's good as well. And yeah, it's good to have a reasonably modern prototype car in the game. So yeah, it was worth picking up. I think it's a good pack. I think there are some little flaws which I'm not used to seeing so much from RaceRoom recently, but there's just a couple of things that just need ironing out just ever so slightly. But other than that, it's a good pack of cars. I think definitely the highlight for me being the DPi and the GTX KTM. I think it's probably my two favorite cars from the pack. But yeah, so that's that, guys. Thanks very much for sticking with us and for rejoining the stream. It was good to have your company this evening. Thanks for your comments along as we've driven the cars. It's been good to follow along with your thoughts on things. So yeah, thanks for sharing those with us. It's good to hear what you guys think of it as well. So now it's up and running properly. Go check it out. Go try them out. Go test drive them if you want to first. Make sure you happy with what you're driving there. See if you share the same thoughts as me. You might not do, you might do, but how it is. Yeah, I'm glad to have you with us this evening. So Samuel says the Vanwall livery and the Ferrari livery. I see you race. Yeah, there was very much a Vanwall look to that Mazda in one of those liveries. Yeah, but yeah, good fun. Thanks very much, guys. We will be back very soon. So obviously it's the weekend coming up. We've got a bank holiday weekend here in the UK. So we'll be back on the Saturday, hopefully, with our regular stream. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you back then. But until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good rest of the week. And we'll see you on the weekend. Bye-bye for now.